This is one of the most disturbing stories I've ever heard about. So if you are squeamish and you don't like these types of things, I suggest you don't listen to this because it's pretty raw. So there's a girl in South Carolina, right? Her name is Kaylee Muthart. She's 19 now, but back when she was 17, she was in school and her heart was set on being a marine biologist. Really good career, good money. You need to have a good head on your shoulders. After a while though, once she started getting into alcohol and cannabis, her grades started to deteriorate. So being in school at the age of 17, things are pretty stressful. Hormones are going wild and you got exams coming up. There's a lot of pressure on you. So unfortunately, Kaylee decided to just sort of soften the blow, have a few drinks here and there. Well, those few drinks here and there became to sort of like a more regular pattern. She started really heavily drinking, and not only doing that, but also smoking cannabis. So out of all this stress and anxiety and things like that, she decided to drop out of school at the age of 17. She no longer wanted to pursue the marine biology because she was just afraid of not succeeding. So she got a part-time job, and then obviously the drinking and the smoking weed just got even worse. A couple of years later, after, settling into her job, smoking weed and drinking alcohol, throughout that period of time, obviously she was getting bombarded by different people asking her if she wanted to try other new drugs, other harder drugs and things like that. And she was like, no. Until one day she was like, do you know what? Let's do it. So she smoked some weed, which she thinks that maybe was laced with cocaine or meth. And that's when things really started to go downhill. She started getting an unbelievably massive high. She was a Christian girl. This high made her think that she was becoming closer to God. Things got out of hand. She kept on using different drugs, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, lost her job. After a while, the relationship with her boyfriend started to deplete to nothing. So that was an end as well. Her life was literally crumbling around her. She even said herself she felt like a lonely, unhappy soul. So with the backlash with quitting college, not being a marine biologist, using alcohol, using drugs, splitting up with her boyfriend, unfortunately she just had this mental breakdown. Her mind could just not cope, and body could not cope anymore. A mental breakdown happened, and then she was diagnosed with bipolar. So one day she's basically just evaluating her life and just thinks, you know what, sod it. I was feeling really good when I was smoking weed laced with meth. I'm going to go out and get some more, but this time I'm just going to get a higher quantity. So unfortunately, she takes far too much meth, and what happens next is where you might want to be like, do I want to carry on watching this? Being in this state of total high, she has this crazy thought that somebody had to be sacrificed, and that sacrifice was herself. And if she didn't gouge her eyes out, then everybody would die. So being quite religious, she wanders into this church crying, upset, realizing what she feels that she has to do, falls down on her knees, shouting out, why me, why me, why me, making a huge scene. She says she's got her thumbs, pointer fingers, middle fingers, put her fingers into her eye sockets, gouged them in, starting pulling her eyes out, twisting back and forth to try to remove them out from the socket, and finally, with an extra bit of a budge, they popped out of her eyes. She said it was an absolute struggle, and it was the hardest thing that she'd ever had to try to do. So at that point, she realized that she couldn't see, so she didn't know if there was any blood or anything coming out of her head or anything. So right now, she's on her hands and knees in a church with her eyeballs in her hands. People praying, worshippers, the pastors are all screaming, rushing towards her, trying to stop her doing what she's doing to herself. And then right at that point, she squeezes her eyes and they pop inside of her hands. And she said at that point, she probably would have got her fingers into her skull and pulled her brains out as well if the people didn't stop her. Reports say that the pastor said that all she kept on saying was, I want to see the light. I want to see the light. So there you go. That is the story of Kaylee Muthart. Remember, don't do drugs. Stay in school. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed or found it interesting. And if you did like it, please remember to subscribe and do the thing. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.